and then came across ConsenSys, then wanted to find out about how to learn how to upskill in Ethereum programming. Had done played around with a few smart contracts on my own, but didn't really have any much great experience in doing that. So I found out about the ConsenSys Academy program, applied for it, managed to get into it. I think they were running like some sort of hacker rank test that you had to do first, and then managed to get onto it. It was very, very comprehensive. I found it very, very challenging, but it was very, very good. It's probably like the toughest, well, not what I say. It was probably the most comprehensive developer program I've ever done. But I guess that's because it was a brand new technology in itself, plus a brand new programming language, plus a brand new way of thinking about applications. So it was quite a lot to get through, but it was very, very thorough. After completing it, I was also issued with a certificate on events. I am now working at ConsenSys. I work for I'm a co-founder of a company called Carry. We are incubated within ConsenSys, and we provide training material for developers who want to learn Web3. So that's me.
Thanks, Josh. So maybe I should have done ladies first, but I didn't. So Veronika, over to you. Let me unmute this. Thank you. You are on.
Hi, so my name's Veronika. I am a strong believer in boot camps. I went straight out of high school and I did a Java boot camp, and I got my first job like that, working at a bank. So boot camps are all the way. It was also a very hectic boot camp. It was a 6-month boot camp. And then I hated my job. So I was like, I want to do something different. I want to do something interesting. And Chris over there introduced me to the blockchain, and I was very curious, and I was like, this sounds like a Ponzi scheme. And then I did my research, and it was definitely not a Ponzi scheme. And then I applied for ConsenSys because I was like, this could be a great opportunity. I got into the course. I worked very hard, very, very hard to do that course. It is definitely a very, very thorough, full understanding of the entire Ethereum stack, as per se. And after that, I got a job at Linum Labs, where I've been working ever since, and I've been loving it.
Thanks, Veronika. Chris, you are next. Let me just do this.
Cool. Hi, everyone. So I'm not actually working right now full-time as a blockchain anything, but I have been quite heavily involved in the space for about 3 years. So I was mining Bitcoin all the way back in 2013, where I discovered the technology and thought it was pretty interesting. But the on and off ramps in South Africa were pretty terrible back then, and mining kind of wasn't quite the same after ASICs really took over the world. And I kind of lost interest in it and focused on my academics until about 2016. Where I was at an internship and saw over someone's shoulder a trading screen, and basically lost my mind to see how much the price had appreciated in that time, and the opportunity cost that I had cost myself. At that point, I discovered Ethereum and really fell in love with the technology, and really could see the potential in it fundamentally changing the way our society is structured and the way that we build organizations and products. I've basically been hooked on it ever since then, and I've been involved in a whole load of different startups and projects, things in the open source community, some stuff to try and drive user adoption forward, some stuff to try and make user onboarding easier. I'm also involved in a number of different startups, which are, both of them are based in South Africa that use blockchain fundamentally. I did my honors in electrical engineering in the last 4 years, and my honors thesis was a peer-to-peer payment system for prepaid car meters using Ethereum as the underlying payment channel for that. So that was quite a cool experience. And now this year I'm doing my master's at UCT, and I'm doing a new fintech course which has got a heavy emphasis on blockchain. There's half of the course is blockchain focused with a a lot of emphasis on machine learning and other emergent technologies. So I'm still like getting to grasp with as much of the ecosystem as possible, because I think it's like really important to understand as much of the stack as you can. So I'm like quite involved, like I want to become like the ultimate full stack developer in a way, where I've got exposure to pretty much all layers of everything from data science to blockchain to back-end development and front-end development and business side and all of that as well. So that's why I'm still studying. And yeah, so that's me.
Thanks, Chris. So Tope, I think you're up next. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tope Alabi. I am a ConsenSys alumni and author of EIP 1024. EIP 1024 is a Ethereum improvement protocol, which is basically a privacy protocol that allows you to communicate privately off-chain. It is now live in MetaMask and soon will be live in Parity. I guess I'll give my blockchain story so like everyone else. I got into blockchain through my work at IDEO, which is like a human design firm in San Francisco, and I guess they have branches all over the world. But I was working at IDEO in 2017, and they have a research arm which is focused on emerging technologies, AI as well as blockchain. I came into that really as an AI guy, and then when I got there, I sort of was able to really understand what the blockchain was about and really get to see how some of the ideas that people were working on to affect real people's lives, right? So working at IDEO, I really got into blockchain, really got excited. That's actually when I started to work on EIP. And then coming out of IDEO, I got to join the ConsenSys team. Just a step back, while I was at IDEO, I got to meet a lot of the people in the ecosystem, some of the famous teams that you guys probably know about, like 0x and Decentraland and all those folks. And I got to really understand what these guys were thinking and, again, see some of the ideas that were coming ahead. And so after that experience, I was lucky enough to join ConsenSys as a software engineer. I did not go through the course that you guys are about to, but I was definitely there helping people with their homework and stuff. So whenever like product managers or other non-technical people would be going through the course, oftentimes they would ask me about problems. So I got to, get a little bit of understanding of what folks were going through. I've also been lucky enough to sort of advise people that have been through other courses, other boot camps elsewhere. So basically, the point I'm making is that I'm really passionate about education and really passionate about blockchain, and also really passionate about Africa, which is why I'm super excited to be here and to work with you all.
Thanks very much, guys. So let's just dive right into it. Who wants to go next? You can just type in the general channel or raise your hand with I think the icon is somewhere on I don't know where it is again. But if you want to talk, if you can just type into the everyone chat, and then we can unmute you so that you can ask your question. Hi. Yeah. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Okay, you can send the question in the chat if you feel more comfortable doing that. Is there anyone else that would like to maybe ask their question to the group?
I did not have any blockchain experience before I started the course, like at all. I could not read a smart contract if you put a gun to my head. So definitely no prior experience in the blockchain space, but I did have prior experience developing.
Yeah, as I said, I haven't actually gone through the course, but yeah, just the whole process of learning how to build smart contracts and getting familiar with the whole smart contract ecosystem. It's in my opinion, it's pretty interesting because if you have previous developer experience, it's just as Josh mentioned, it's really just more a different way of thinking, more so than like it's not. I wouldn't call it difficult. I would just call it just a different way of looking at software.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I didn't have too much experience. The only experience I had was reading a couple of things online and just reading like some tutorials on Medium, which I played around with. But that was basically like maybe like 3 or 4 weeks worth of doing that. So no real experience, to be honest, before I went through the course. But I wouldn't say that. I would say that you wouldn't need much experience in terms of blockchain development, because the course starts from an introduction to what blockchain is as a concept and from a technical point of view, and then introduces you into Ethereum from a technical point of view before it starts to get into anything hands-on and anything where you have to like now start to implement something. So I think from programming languages, like if you're comfortable with any type of programming language before, then you should be quite comfortable in the course. And I would say you probably have a head start if you've done JavaScript before, because if you're gonna add during the course, you'll have to add some front end pieces, and mainly that's done in JavaScript. So just development experience is all you need rather than blockchain experience, because the course should help you through that part.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys are all talking about actually like what the requirements for the course itself are. There was a question here that was directed towards me. I'll just read it out. How long does it take one to become experienced developer and actually build a product on the blockchain? Okay, so firstly, I wouldn't like seriously classify myself as that experienced. I have been involved in a lot of projects and like built out a lot of systems, but the thing is with this space is it's very much an emergent environment, and the thing is that it's changing so unbelievably rapidly that it's quite difficult to classify yourself as an expert at really anything, when every new day there's a new EIP or a new protocol, a new technology, a new library to do the same thing in a better way. But in terms of timing, I mean, like Veronika, for example, did after the ConsenSys Academy put a whole load of effort into skilling herself up and became a full-time blockchain developer from zero to hero in 4 to 6 months is possible if you have that prior knowledge. In terms of what Joshua was saying around JavaScript, I think that's a very important point. That's if there's going to be one thing that's super valuable starting out in this ecosystem, it's understanding web development. Because at the end of the day, dApps are just websites, your standard website with a slightly different backend component. I mean, all that the smart contract, and that's obviously a heavy oversimplification, but the vast majority of a dApp is just a front end written in JavaScript that talks to another component, right? So having some JavaScript experience there would definitely accelerate that learning process. So yeah, I think like if you really put some time and effort into it after the ConsenSys Academy, you should be au fait with most of the smart contract stuff. Put 2 or 3 projects under your belt, and you should be capable to go and join a startup or actually write production-ready smart contracts. And Veronika can attest to that, I think.
Yeah, all you need to really do is just put a couple of projects on your GitHub, and people are so desperate for anyone who actually knows Solidity that you will be absolutely fine with just 1 or 2 projects on your GitHub.
Yeah. I can attest to that as well. I mean, I did the program in 2017, and I was working at ConsenSys about a couple of months after that. And then maybe about 6 months after that, I was lead engineer on the project. So I'll say with a lot of hard work. Once you go through the course, if you put in the time to practice your skills and like work on a few projects on your own and put them on your GitHub and start reaching out to people, there is so much demand for Solidity developers or somebody who understands blockchain or Ethereum. So I would say that there's so much demand that if you put in the work and you get up yourself, you should be able to find opportunities. The other hand as well is that you could create opportunities by yourself by working on projects that you think could be interesting. And so it's not always that you have to go in to get a job. You could start your own startup or something like that. So.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is what would be a really great thing to do as someone just joining the space is try and find an open source project that you can contribute to, because at the end of the day, that's like very valuable to contribute back to the ecosystem. And like it's not obviously super easy to find a project that's at a level that has open issues, but if you can like contribute to the greater ecosystem, that's always like the best way to get your foot in the door. Rather than just saying like, here's simplebank.sol that I put on my GitHub, like rather you can say like, here's a project that I actually contributed to and like, yeah, had code review and all of that.
And then there's another question is, what is ConsenSys doing to support the local African blockchain startup?
I think I'll take that, right? The first part is this course is normally $1,000 and it has been discounted to $650 to drive that sort of inclusion and diversity and make it more affordable for African developers. So that especially in the context of what we are talking about and in the context of education, that deep discount of $350 is a hit that ConsenSys is taking off the cost of that. So, and then there's another question around Python. Is it just Python that can be used in blockchain setup?
I can take that question if you don't mind. So most of this course is based on a programming language called Solidity. Solidity is an Ethereum programming language. It looks a lot like typed JavaScript. But for students who want to go further, there's definitely an opportunity to use other programming languages to, for example, create your own blockchain, create your own sort of blockchain clients as well. So there's actually, I think the Ethereum Foundation is working on a Python client that can interface with the Ethereum blockchain and you know, you can build your own, for example, MetaMask if you want, using Python or, you know, for example, right? So the idea is that for smart contracts, you're most likely going to be using Solidity. But if you wanted to go a step further and either build your own blockchain or build your own blockchain clients, then you can definitely use Python or Java or whatever other language you would like to use.
Yeah. So, so when you're building a application, I think Chris mentioned that usually it's like a web application. So a web application which is usually going to be talking to a smart contract. And I think that's basically when you get to the end of the program, that's the stage that you'll get to. So either it'll be React or what's the other one they use, Angular as a front end, talking to Solidity smart contracts, which you will deploy to a Ethereum blockchain. But you can use you can use multiple programming languages to interface the smart contracts. You can use Python. You can use JavaScript, of course. You can use Java. You can use .NET. So the application I work on right now has a Java backend, which talks to the smart contracts over the web using the Web3j library, but it's a Java library for Web3. And then it has a React front end written in JavaScript, for instance. So the main thing that you learn on the course is writing the smart contracts, so the contracts that actually get deployed onto the blockchain, and then how to interface or interact with those via any programming language, really, using the Web3 library. So any programming language really is applicable here. And the programming language that you will learn on the course is Solidity. And then taking that further, Chris actually made a good point about open source projects, and I wouldn't suggest you guys do this now, but after the course, once you've got some experience, there are like ways you can contribute to open source projects and at the same time earn some revenue. There's like a project called Gitcoin that has a bunch of bounties attached to GitHub tasks, which a lot of open source projects use to incentivize people to contribute to the open source community. So, and like, hopefully, if you guys get through the course, I would be willing to spend some time and help some people on board onto that and find out how they can start contributing in that way. And then there's a bunch of other tutorials that you can go through and other content that you can use to upskill, because the issue is what you'll learn on the course is the programming language which is specific to Ethereum, and that you learn all of the fundamentals. But if you want to, let's say for instance, you wanted to understand, you wanted to take that and go into like decentralized financial services, there's like a DeFi community which has like all of the projects in that space. So projects like MakerDAO, projects like Dharma Protocol, for instance. And then they would have their own libraries that you would need to learn, but all of that stuff is open and they have a bunch of tutorials and a bunch of developers already doing that. And it's just like how you navigate in that community and find people who you can interact with. So all of those links are there, but the foundational layer of what you need to know is what the course will take you.
I just wanted to jump in quickly. So someone asked how long after the program it took you to get a job. So I started talking to Lindum Labs while I was still doing the course, and 2 weeks after I finished the course, I had a job. So that was my first point. And my second point was what Joshua was actually talking about earlier with the different libraries that you can use to talk to the Solidity contracts. Like, there are new libraries being written in like every language you can think of. So if you just got one language that you're really good at, don't worry, there's probably a library coming soon. And then someone else asked if we will have a chance to deploy the projects on the live chain upon completion, and are there associated costs. So doing anything on the live chain, the mainnet, costs you real money, because you have to buy real Ethereum in order to deploy and test and all that kind of good stuff. But and this is also speaks to what we talked about earlier about how it's a mind shift change. Like, you don't just deploy on the mainnet. You first deploy on a test net. And you get as many people as you can to come try and break your program. Like, if we talk about like something that's actually going to be used by the public, putting it on the mainnet is like the very, 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 very last step, and you must have like thoroughly tested it before then. So during the course, you don't put something on the mainnet, but putting something on the mainnet versus putting it on the testnet is almost identical, except on the testnet, you don't actually have to put real money into it, which is great. There was another question. There are so many, so someone asked what are some of the blockchain applications that have been developed, under development, or under testing. There are so many, you can't even count them all, okay? And they're all open source, which is great because you can literally, if you can go read their code. You can actually go see how they've done it, where they've done it, like what they've connected it to. It's all open source. You can go comment, you can make an issue on the GitHub. It's a very different community. Like for me, I came out of banking, and banks don't really share their code. You know, that's very closed sourced. So it was a huge jump for me to come into a space where all the projects are open source. I can go and clone their repo and have their entire project and get to fiddle with it and see how it works and break it. So yeah, there's more projects than you can count being created right now.
I'll also just jump in there. A practical example was here in South Africa, where they used the Ethereum blockchain to simulate the banking system, the RTGS system. So RTGS is real-time gross settlement system. So the system that pretty much powers the banks and the central banks and how they transfer money to each other and to the central bank and back and forth. The thing with that, the current systems that they have now, they are slow and expensive, and everything has to go through the central banks because the central bank is like a bottleneck. The other challenge with that is that the central bank doesn't have a full view into each and everything that the banks do. They actually rely on them to report. So using the blockchain, they put everything on a ledger where everybody had different access views. The central bank had an all-seeing eye, and that made the transactions instant. They didn't have to do so. Shockingly, the more that I got into blockchain, the more I understood that the banking systems that we have now there's a lot of manual clearing and settlement and calculation. If I transfer money from my bank account to yours, it looks instant in the internet banking, but there's still a lot of manual reconciliation that has to be done. And that leads to disputes and a whole bunch of things. So with Project Coca and putting all of that on the blockchain, they could settle instantly. Some of you that have been involved in transferring crypto or in crypto trade, might be familiar with what's called an atomic swap. So it's an automatic and instant settlement. If you transfer something to someone, it's done and settled. So I don't know, I just think that's the biggest example. There are also several other examples where people use incentive systems, and when they perform a certain task, they earn a token in return. Most common example also exchanges where you trade and buy Bitcoin and Ether and other cryptocurrencies. And yeah, I don't know, anybody else could feel free to chip in on an example of a project they know or they've worked on.
So I'll go because everyone's so shy today. So at Linum Labs, I'm currently working on 2 projects that are both completely blockchain based, and they are both amazing projects. So the one's called Protea, and what Protea is a community building incentive, like blockchain thing. So the way I like to describe it, although the idea has definitely very much further along the line than what I'm going to describe it as, but this is just a nice simple way to understand what Protea is trying to do. So imagine you RSVP to come to this, right? And it cost you R5 to RSVP to come to this event, online event, okay? And then if you come, you get your R5 back. So it's not like you're losing your R5. But if you don't come and you RSVP, then you lose your R5, and your R5 gets distributed amongst everyone else who did come. So you can actually go to an event having paid R5 and come back from the event with 10, and that's Protea. So it's trying to, and it does this obviously on a much larger scale, and there's lots of other incentive models built into it in all kinds of beautiful ways, but that's a nice, simple start to understanding it. And then the other project we're working on is called Molecule, and Molecule is fascinating because it's taking the crypto space and the incentive models into one of the most closed community business groups that there is, which is big pharma, like pharmaceuticals. So what Molecule is trying to do is to open pharmaceuticals and to decentralize the funding of drug development, because currently drug development is very expensive, very, very expensive. It's done by one company. They carry all the risk for it. So by decentralizing it, we can make it less risky for everyone involved in actually getting a drug from discovery to market, and maybe lower the prices of all the drugs that are currently in market that are paying for that R&D.
Cool, thanks. Someone is asking here, so are the final projects predetermined by ConsenSys? No, you would choose the final project that you would work on. We could also support you, there are a bunch of use cases that people are requesting from the community. So if you need help with sort of what you should focus on, we have different networks in different countries. We'll look at the country where you're in. We would advise maybe that you work on something that is being requested by the community where you're in. Also, someone is asking, what kind of support does one get while going through the program? So we have mentors. Two of them are here. Josh and Tope are mentors on the program. So we have office hours, weekly office hours with the mentors, which is about 1 to 2 hours every week. Over and above that, the mentors will also be available in a Slack channel to answer a whole bunch of questions that people will have. There is also a discourse forum with 2,000 plus ConsenSys Academy alumni, and they're very helpful, very responsive. Developers like to help each other, right? It's a thing. They're very collaborative, very helpful. So that's the kind of support that you would get. Depending on the number of people in different cities, we also plan to have meetups here and there in some of the cities, particularly between Joburg and Lagos, most likely. So watch out for those. I believe most people here are on our mailing list. Those would be the way. So we have weekly mentor office hours. The mentors will answer your questions 24 to 48 hours via Slack channel. And there's also like a whole discussion forum with all ConsenSys Academy graduates and 2,000 plus. So people respond pretty quickly to inquiries and very helpful. Okay. I think I'll just see, there's a question here. I would like to know when feedback will be sent to those who applied for the scholarship. The feedback will be sent this week sometime, or early next week at the most.
I think one person asked, they didn't hear the response. I believe this is being recorded, so you can probably send this out on email to everyone after.
Yes, we will send this to the whole group because it's being recorded. Also, in the interest of time, I think we have close to 10 more minutes. I don't know if there are any further burning issues people would like to ask or type into the chat.
Don't be scared, I promise we won't bite. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. So general experience working as a developer. So my general experience has been just this real sense of like community. Like everyone's out there to help each other. Like there's no secrecy, no one's trying to steal your project. Like everything's open source and everyone just, like it's a really nice space to be in. You can ask questions, people will answer them. There's lots of events and people will attend these events with like not to tear it down, but to build it up. I really enjoy the community. Like, we have a couple rotten eggs, but there's rotten eggs everywhere. And then someone else asked, where do you see the real impact of blockchain in Africa? Aside from payments, it is the unbanked, because in Africa we have more people without like bank accounts because they don't have like an ID, and you can't get a bank account without an ID. But in the blockchain space, you don't need anything besides maybe a little bit of internet connection and any kind of phone. And now you can have an account of sorts, which makes saving much easier, transferring money. It really enables you as like a person to actually be able to have a store of money that's not in danger of being stolen. So I think helping the unbanked is one of the biggest impacts that blockchain is going to have in Africa, along with maybe some governance systems. But
I'd like to add to the developer experience. One of the things you'll find as a newly minted blockchain engineer, as Veronika mentioned, is that the ecosystem is so new that you have a very big opportunity to contribute. Right? We talked about open source contributions earlier. I wrote an EIP, right? I'm like making change in the ecosystem. You have the very same opportunity to do so because it's so early in the life cycle of this technology. You have the opportunity to step in, figure out what's missing, and add to it. So there literally is much more demand for people that understand blockchain development than you can even imagine right now. There's so many places, there's so much work to be done and so much that you can contribute that I think once you get your feet wet, you'll realize that there's just a huge opportunity there as far as making an impact personally as a developer, as well as in real people's lives through the apps that you build. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
just to add to the question that Veronika answered about the impact of blockchain, we also think movement of things across Africa is very, very difficult. So again, sorry to come back to payments, but that's primarily when people move, they have to move or transfer value. But also when people move, especially let's take, for instance, the SADC region or the West African region, you should be able to carry your identity, right? You should be able to access a loan. Like I cannot go to Kenya today and say, carry my credit history from South Africa with me to Kenya. I cannot go to, maybe I'm traveling on business in Nigeria and I needed to go to a hospital. Nigeria is too far. Let me say Zimbabwe, just next door. And, you know, you had to go into a hospital, get treated by a doctor. So I think in that seamless movement of people, access to services, identity, just that whole interaction between different continents and people moving up and down, because people do move up and down all across Africa. I think blockchain could enable that to be a lot more frictionless. I think it could enable more access to services for people when they move. And if people know that they have access to the same services that they would have where they are, you know, it will open up a whole world of opportunity where they can move, they can, you know, just move around, and that's pretty much it. And also the social impact aspect to that is the places where you have a lot of crisis and a lot of refugees. If blockchain solutions could actually help them to access services as well. So that's just my addition to that. I will please appeal that we will extend a little bit by 10 minutes because a whole lot of questions are coming in. So I'll appeal to the speakers to please stay on for an extra 10 minutes to take a few more of the questions. And also we have a few questions for some of the people here. So anybody can go for another question or, yeah.
Someone asked about, sorry,
yes.
yeah,
Veronika, go
there
ahead.
are scholarships. There are scholarships, guys. Apply for the scholarship. Go for it. Is having blockchain certification the only way to get into blockchain dev? No, it's not. It is not the only way to get into blockchain dev. You can go read up on it yourself. And it's not even a very hard language to learn. But the thing is, it is such a mind shift change from any other language you've ever worked with, because everything else is just iterate quickly, find the bugs, fix the bugs. Whereas Solidity is, you want to think this thing so, like, you want to think it through so thoroughly before you even start writing code that, like, your code should be perfect on the first time because you should have thought it out that well. Because the thing is with Solidity, like, the order in which you do certain things can affect the security of your contract, like whether it's vulnerable to attacks and that kind of stuff. And that kind of stuff isn't going to be taught in like a quick little YouTube online thing, you know? So that's the one thing I really, really thoroughly appreciated about the ConsenSys course, is that they actually do go through, like, you know, this is what this vulnerability is. This is how this vulnerability comes about. This is how you can protect from it. This is where it, you know, it's very different from any language you've worked with before. It's a complete mind shift change, but it's not a difficult language to learn, but it's a difficult mindset to put yourself in, especially if you're very used to other languages and like traditional languages, I'm going to call
them. That's a very long question. Okay, here we go. You need to see interoperability with traditional systems. How is ConsenSys working to bring this to reality rather than just train developers? Because we need regulation and government coverage. Okay, so that's a quite a long one, but I'll try and answer it as best as I can. So I think that not just ConsenSys, it's important to understand it's not just ConsenSys, but the whole Ethereum ecosystem or blockchain ecosystem. So other companies like Linum Labs, African Blockchain Association, which is putting on this training program, and other companies like Prismic Labs and the Ethereum Foundation and a whole bunch of other companies in the ecosystem are working on various different streams. So you have educational stream, which is what we're talking about today. We're training developers, making sure that there's a workforce in place so that we're able to deliver the things that we want to deliver in future. So if you don't have developers, we might have great ideas, but we don't have enough people to develop them, so they will never come to fruition. So it's very important to train developers. ConsenSys, I can say I work at ConsenSys, so I can talk about some stuff that ConsenSys are doing. So a lot of the developer tools, a lot of the things that you would use, like how you would interact with Ethereum right now within a web browser. MetaMask is a tool that users use. That's developed by ConsenSys. Truffle is an integrated development environment that's, again, developed by ConsenSys. So we build a lot of foundational tools. Then you have a lot of projects to work on. Like we have a solutions arm, which works, I believe Linum Labs might have one as well, but we have a solutions arm, which works with enterprises. So that's more your traditional legacy systems. Okay, you guys are your traditional legacy systems. So you're trying to build solutions for them. So the solution that Ben mentioned earlier, Project Coco, which was in South Africa with the South African Reserve Bank, I believe, where they replaced their, well, they did a pilot to replace their RTGS banking system with an Ethereum consortium blockchain. That was something that they do. And then you have a whole bunch, outside of ConsenSys, a whole bunch of different startups working on different problems. So I mentioned DeFi earlier, so decentralized finance. So when you're talking about the unbanked, how do you use the blockchain to create applications that people can use to access, to create financial instruments from blockchain products. So blockchain products is a bit iffy, but basically how do you for instance, if you want to do something like a leveraged loan, for instance, like how do you do that on the blockchain without having any central party or authority be in control of that, but still have it be secure? So there's a project in DeFi called MakerDAO, which allows you to do that. And they also provide a stable token for the ecosystem, which is very useful. But so there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done. I don't think that you can focus on one part. You need to also train developers, but you also need to work with enterprises. You also need to be innovative. And then there's a whole bunch of other people who are working on Ethereum, the protocol itself. So Tope mentioned EIPs, an Ethereum improvement proposal is a change to the Ethereum, is you proposing the change to the protocol so that it can enable you to build something in the future, or something in the future. So for instance, one of the reasons why it's important for African developers to understand the blockchain and to understand Ethereum or any other blockchain, is that this technology is going to change the way things are done in the future. And if your viewpoint, or if you have like certain things that you like, which are specific to your region, that the technology could help with, but your voices haven't been heard, then those things won't be in the protocol, right? So if you guys as a developer are not suggesting EIPs, if you're not telling people that we need to do this, but the protocol doesn't quite work and we need this little bit of change, that's not going to happen, right? So your voice needs to be heard. Right now, all the voices that the protocol is being designed by the people within the ecosystem. So if there's no representation from it, or if there's not enough representation from your region, then there might be things that are missing that should be there that are not there. So yeah.
And Josh, that's a very insightful point, because with the internet, for instance, I don't think that a lot of Africans contributed to the foundational point of the internet, and that could be a reason why. I mean, there are 1 billion plus people that are left, that the internet revolution has left behind, that don't have access to the internet. So those are things that we need to avoid with blockchain, and that is why we are really advocating to have more people that understand the technology at a foundational level so that they can contribute to that. You know, and great point on, I mean, for the question on the regulations and government, there are a lot of effort to get regulators and governments to understand that. They might not all be visible, but trust me, there's a lot of things. But at the same time, we need the people to understand the technology so that we can show actual value, because there's a lot of talk too about, oh, blockchain is just talk. Where are the applications, especially in Africa? A lot of people are starting to ask those questions. They're, okay, we get it, we understand it, but where, like how, show us. So we need more people that can actually, or that should actually be building stuff that we can also show the regulators. So it's a complementary situation where each part helps the other. I answered the question via chat. Yes, we have opportunities for job placements, for open source projects. We have tasks on, Josh mentioned something called Gitcoin, and a whole lot of other opportunities that we would link developers to. There's also an opportunity for you to work on an idea. If you have an idea, we would support you with sort of turning that idea into a reputable venture and linking you with investment opportunities for that idea, with the right teams that can support you to bring your idea to life. So yes, there are those opportunities. So I think we would end in about 5 minutes. And in closing from me here would be like a question, because some of the people on this call, I see the ones that have actually paid for the course are not on this call. Not to expose anybody or mean it in a bad way. I just wanted to check, is there any challenge with paying for the course? I will address one that came to me directly. Someone was concerned about the SSL certificate of the website. We actually resolved that with the hosting partner, because the host didn't put the SSL certificate on. So one of you picked it up. Thank you very much for that. I don't know if the person is on this call, so we fixed that. But I just wanted to know, like, have there been any challenges with paying for the course, or any issues that we can address on the call, just in closing? And any other top of mind issues we can deal with in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to help you now, but when I was doing the course, I fought with PayPal. I was like, I will take my money. I had to fight very hard to actually get it to function. So.
Yeah, so we've simplified that on the Afri blockchain website. We have different options if you've registered, and you can also pay in your local currency, right? So we have the South African Rand, we have Naira, we have Kenyan shillings. I believe we have about 5 African currencies there where you can even pay with mobile money and all the local African options. So, you know, someone asked how many times the course will be offered this year. As many times as possible, right? We just want to bring this cohort together and kickstart something next week. There will be further cohorts and we will announce them as time goes on. But we're definitely starting with the groups that have registered and we're getting on. Yes, you can pay with Bitcoin. There's an option to pay with Bitcoin on the website. I will just paste the page here somewhere while we wrap up. Yes, this is it. So I believe if you go here, you will see all the payment options that there are. And Ghana, yeah, it's 4 currencies actually. And you can pay with USD or with crypto or directly into a bank account. Yes, so I think that is it, really, in 3 minutes. I don't know if the speakers want to leave any parting thoughts. The ladies first, yours truly. Veronika?
I just want to say thank you all so much for your questions. I love engaging with the community. It's half the fun of this. And I also wanted to say that like when you start doing the course, I promise you, you're going to have more ideas than you know what to do with, in terms of like ideas of like, oh, I could build this. Oh my gosh, this is going to be the next big thing. Write them down and then come back to them in like 2 months. And if you still think they're a good idea, then go for it. You just need that time to like calm down a little bit. Everything can go on the blockchain, but everything shouldn't be on the blockchain. So, but like definitely it's so much fun, and it's so like when you actually like especially like the first half of the course, because you don't actually start coding until much later, because as I was saying, like the coding language isn't actually that difficult. It's all the theory that's important. But when you're learning that theory, it's going to click so much why everyone's been raving about this for so long. Like it is incredible. Like the technology is just amazing, and I'm so excited for you guys to all learn about it.
I think we should close on that. I think that was...
Yeah, how do you follow that?
Drops the mic. Okay, so I think the guys, are you on a consensus? Do we have a consensus that you don't have no further comments from you guys?
Yeah, I don't want to lower the bar. So.
Okay. Cool. So thank you very much, guys. We'll circulate this recording and keep the questions coming too. There is a Twitter handle at AfriBlockchain. I hope I'm spelling it correctly. No, I didn't spell it correctly. Sorry. At AfriBlockchain. Yep. And then the hashtag ABDP. You can tag that, and also let us know if you're having any challenges and stuff. And there will be more and more cohorts starting. We want to keep it regular, and you will have a lot of mentorship, a lot of support. So don't be afraid that you'll just be left in the wild, wild west. Yes, the courses are online, everything is online, but you have us here. Some of the people on this call are going to be supporting with mentorship, and they will be there. Slack channels, there are different ways that will support you. So we're real people that you can feel and touch. And now and again, we will have an event in your city. So watch out for that. Someone said we should also have meetups in Ghana. Definitely noted. And in Kenya. Definitely noted. And thank you guys, and looking forward to engaging further on social media and on other platforms. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.